guest today is Bill Toncaster, and he is Director of Public Affairs at Lesley University. He is also a playwright and a writer, and he has just been given the right to take the Friends of Eddie Coyle and turn it into a theatrical production. Now, in your PR thing that you sent out, you felt that this movie screams to be turned into a play, that George Higgins, the author, had a way of phrasing things that were very theatrical. If you'd walk our viewers through why this pushed you.
It was actually much more the book than the movie, which I read the book first.
Okay.
And I actually grew up in Somerville, and as a playwright I've for a long time been sort of experimenting with trying to capture the nuance of the Boston dialect, and thought I was doing pretty well until I picked up George Higgins and realized he had done it better than anyone ever had.
How did he do this? Tell our viewers. How did George Higgins get into this? You call it the lowest rung in criminality.
It is.
I want you to explain that too, but how did George Higgins, what was his background, if you tell our viewers?
He was a prosecutor. He had been an ADA, and at the time that he wrote Eddie Coyle, he was an assistant U.S. attorney and prosecuted people in this world. Remained a lawyer even after the success of the Friends of Eddie Coyle, and it comes through in the book. There's almost a sense that you're overhearing wiretap conversations and conversations you're not supposed to hear. And this story is almost entirely told through dialogue, and you learn nothing about the characters if they don't themselves say it. And in doing so, it's frequently very funny, and actually funnier in book and play form than it was perhaps in the movie.
You know, in theater, I was just discussing this with somebody in theater previously, and there is that thing that happens in theater, that in fact the audience and the actor become as one, and you know, it's like hearing a marvelous violin concerto or a piano concerto. You know when that's happening to you, because you're no longer in the audience, you're right there on the stage and you're going through everything. Now, I was thinking, I never really thought about this in the literary sense, but what you're saying is the same thing that's happening when you're reading Higgins' dialogue.
When you're reading, we held a stage reading of this script back in November, and it absolutely rang true. It's I don't think there are very many. It happens with Southern writing an awful lot, that people sort of recognize that there's a poetry inherent in the dialect. It doesn't really happen with Boston dialogue very much, and with this book, it's and it's not just putting AH at the end of things.
No, I know. When you're into a book and you don't want it to end, you know you've been suckered right into it. You know, you don't end. It's got to go on.
Well, to me, for this, with Eddie Coyle, I think on page 8 or 10, I decided I wanted to do more with it than just read it and enjoy it. There's a way of speaking that the characters have that to me seemed to beg for an actor to do it out loud and to put it in front of people.
That's pretty exciting, because Mitchum did such a good job, in the film. You've got your challenges out there. We do.
I've actually barred my cast from watching the movie.
Really?
Only one member of our cast has seen the movie. Well, I don't think there's anything to be gained by anyone trying to consciously.
This is like being on a jury, being part of your cast.
Yeah,
and the judge says you are not to watch the television or anything else.
Right.
You're telling you not.
And Mitchum was fabulous, but there's a whole lot of ways to play Hamlet or any good character.
Yes.
And but yes, none of my cast have seen the movie. One has, but not recently, and the performances are wonderful. Mitchum was great, Peter Boyle was great, Alex Rocco, and others, and there's nothing really to be gained by trying to consciously or accidentally imitating them.
Okay, now tell me, you also say this is the lowest rung in criminality. Now, I mean, we have seen the Al Capones, we have seen some really miserable people out there as criminals. So I was a little taken aback when in your release you said this is the lowest rung. If you'd explain that to our viewers.
Yeah, most times people think of a crime story. It's usually focused on the bad guy or the good guy. Eddie Coyle's a little different because it's not about the bank robbers or the cops. It's about an insignificant player in what is a string of bank robberies.
That is interesting, because you nailed it. Insignificant.
Very insignificant.
Which is so sad. You just feel
For those that don't know it, the basic premise is Eddie Coyle is a low-life thug who's a couple of weeks away from a sentence on driving a truck full of stolen booze. He's supplying guns to a crew of bank robbers, and
he's an all-time loser.
Right, and he's trying to figure out if there's some information he can give to the feds in exchange for a kind word to the judge. So that he is not
he's loyal to nobody.
No, nobody is, and he's neither a master criminal nor a good guy.
You know, it's very Shakespearean. Mm-hmm. Well, we have to go. Would you give us some, give our viewers, you know, where to get in touch with you, when it's going to open at the Oberon Theater?
Sure. We'll be opening December 8th and running through January 15th for 11 performances at Oberon in Harvard Square. Our website is very simple, www.thefriendsofeddiecoyle.com.
Well, it appears to me that this sounds like a great challenge, and it's on its way to being a huge success. I'm looking forward to seeing it, Bill. Our guest today has been Bill Doncaster. He is in charge of, he's at Lesley University as the Boston area higher education, developing great things at the university.
Thank you, yes.
And a playwright and a producer. Thank you so much for being our guest.
Thank you for having me.
Did you give your website and your telephone number?
I'm happy to give it again. It's thefriendsofeddiecoyle.com.
Thank you so much for being our guest.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.